Enlarge, may you be as joyful as a Mario in boxer shorts and an oversized boxing glove hat. Ancient proverb. A few weeks ago, I got dragged down a rabbit hole discussion of what defines a core Mario game. One proposed definition relied on Mario trying to reach an explicit goal point or exit at the end of the level, while a core Mario game could have secondary goals like collecting red coins or one-ups, and while there might be multiple exits in a single level, getting from the start to the end has always been a defining characteristic of his adventures. Even more open 3D games like Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy have retained this model to some extent, ending with a run through the level and putting Mario back to the start after he collects a star or shine. By this strict definition, Super Mario Odyssey can't really be considered a core Mario game at all. The game's wide-open kingdoms don't have any set endpoints, instead they exist more as spaces to run and jump around at your leisure. When you stumble on one of the many power moons that are Mario's most explicit goals within these levels, the exploring continues on from the same point after a short animation. On top of that, you only need to collect a small handful of these available moons before you're allowed to move on to the next kingdom and back at your leisure. This may sound like a small difference, but it changes the flow and feel of the standard Mario adventure in a profound way. Super Mario Odyssey is decidedly not a game about getting from point A to point B. Instead, it's a game about just having a wander, getting lost in inventive environments, and seeing what happens. Many moons. While there have been plenty of hidden secrets in previous Mario games, Odyssey seems more explicit about making those hidden gems the point of the adventure. Secret areas that might have hidden a power-up or cache of coins in another Mario game are much more likely to hide one of the game's hundreds of power moons in Odyssey. These secret locales therefore reward players with a much more concrete and countable bounty for your aimless exploration. Most levels have dozens upon dozens of these power moons to find, and dozens more become available only in the endgame after the main credits have rolled. At first glance, it seems almost impossible that these kingdoms have enough room to house the dozens of power moons listed in the game's checklist. Then you start exploring and finding those hidden nooks and crannies that aren't visible in those first panoramas, discovering just how dense the rising, twisting, layered level design can be. This time, Bowser is capturing non-humanoid women too. I know how you feel, princess. Don't worry, Mario, you'll get the hang of it. The Broodals express more character through their expressive animations than their simplistic writing. That's the existential dread I look for in a Mario game, right there. Oh yeah, that's the stuff. I feel like Mario is a bit underdressed for this affair. Princess Peach does her best to pretend to be part of the scenery. A cute Easter egg on a newspaper in New Donk City. With hundreds of moons to find, some end up being more interesting than others. You'll occasionally find a moon simply hovering right in your path, seemingly rewarding you just for existing at this point in the game. Others announce their presence through a rainbow glow from a nondescript crate, or fare, given to you simply for talking to one of the heavily animated citizens standing around a kingdom's central town. For the most part, though, the designers show a lot of imagination coming up with new and engaging tasks for Mario to complete. Often you'll see a moon on a high ledge and wonder how in the world Mario can jump high enough or far enough to reach it before exploring a bit more and finding the correct path hidden in some out-of-the-way place. Many moons tax your powers of observation, making you look for that hidden hole in the wall or becoming visible only when you turn the camera back around that blind corner you ran past earlier. Some moons made me grin with their absurdity, like a race between rotund, bouncing yetis or a quest to park a motor scooter on a skyscraper rooftop. Some moons made me laugh out loud with their unexpectedness, like when a glowing, moon-hoarding pigeon just happened to fly into my path inside the urban-inspired Metro Kingdom. And some made me nearly throw my controllers in frustration, like a timed challenge that saw a moon disappear just a split second before I could get Mario to reach it. Page 2. The kingdoms themselves feel like dim places rather than empty ruins, to the extent that the map screen includes little travel agent-style write-ups of things to look out for when visiting. Each one is centered around a small village core filled with animated characters that greet Mario with quick one-liners as he passes. I get the same way when I'm around a cute dog. Would you believe me if I told you there were dozens of power moons hidden in this relatively small space? I included this picture because it looks like Mario is dabbing, and I hear that's what the kids are into these days. The singe marks on Mario after getting burned by an explosion are a nice touch. You're a long way from New Donk City, man. Not actually a deleted scene from New Super Mario Bros. 2, the joy of exploration, captured in a single shot. These little pixel graffiti stickers are like the hidden Mickeys of Super Mario Odyssey. Where'd Mario go? All I see are these ancient statues. Explain this photo to someone who hasn't played the game. Because I can't. Did this guy get lost on his way to Skyrim? A nice little homage to Donkey Kong hidden in the Metro Kingdom. Check out the lighting effects through that ice, not shown this horrifying parrot eating Mario in one gulp. With the Switch docked to the TV, there was also a handful of crowded scenes where the game noticeably stuttered with a distractingly choppy frame rate for a second or so. This problem wasn't noticeable in portable mode. These visual issues are rare enough that they're easy to forget about for a long periods, but they're still frustrating in a game world that looks so effortlessly put together most of the time. While quite a few of the motifs are pretty cliché at this point, the Ice Kingdom, the Wooded Kingdom, the Desert Kingdom, others shine with inventive ideas, like the cooking-themed Luncheon Kingdom. The Metro Kingdoms lie in bustling New Donk City. A system of checkpoint flags and fast travel helps limit the amount of dull backtracking in the larger levels, letting you jump right back to a tour or each plateau at a moment's notice. Rather than straight paths to a specific goal, the kingdoms seem designed to encourage distraction and detour as potential points of interest catch your eye. You might start a level running for a specific moon you see in the distance, only to get distracted by a handful of the level's 100 purple coins hidden behind a wall. When collecting those, maybe you'll see a pipe that will pull a flat 2D Mario in an old-school jumping challenge, or meet a skeleton who needs help herding his sheep, or see the seed that a gardener back at the beginning of the level was asking for. In this way, Super Mario Odyssey in some ways resembles The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild more than other games in the Mario series. The hundreds of power moons that litter Mario's world bear more than a little similarity to the hundreds of Korok seeds that dot Link's Hyrule. But while Breath of the Wild's Hyrule is characterized by vast open spaces and lonely climbs over mountainous terrain, each of the loosely connected areas in Super Mario Odyssey is absolutely packed with things to see and do. There is very little wasted space. Through it all, there's also little explicit guidance for what you're supposed to do. While many levels have a short questline that leads to a boss fight, the vast majority of power moons aren't hinted at marks on the map in any way unless you pay for hints using in-game coins. For the most part, the game is content to let you just stumble on the power moon opportunities while exploring as you will. Tip of the cap: while extras have been a vestigial concept in Mario games for years, Odyssey cements its distinctiveness in the series by doing away with the one-up mushroom entirely. Dying in the game, either by falling in a pit or getting hit 3 times, simply means losing a handful of coins from a pile that seems to grow continuously unless you spend it on new costumes. In fact, Odyssey doesn't have any items or power-up suits at all in the traditional sense. Instead, Mario makes liberal use of his new friend Cappy, a sentient hat who is also looking to save a woman from Bowser, in this case his wedding tiara sister. Don't ask. Mario can throw Cappy a short distance as a makeshift weapon, a ubiquitous if limited projectile that severely curtails the need to make precise 3D jumps on enemies. Throwing Cappy also pauses Mario's momentum in mid-air, allowing for some extra height, distance, and more precision landings on tough jumps. With good timing, you can even extend traditional long jumps by throwing Cappy and immediately diving into a bounce off his springy top. A small selection of Mario's best in-game transformations, starting with the game's first lowly frog. Name another game with a put-on shades button. I love how cheap Mario looks, constantly surprised. I know what I'm going as for Halloween. Alright, Goomba Mario, I need pure, unadulterated joy for this next shot. Click perfect. Every shot from the mouth of this mobile coin purse is literally throwing away money. This little guy's pointy beak is great for climbing soft walls. If you call this fellow a Podoboo instead of a fireball, you are a true Mario fan. Who needs Super Mario Bros. 3's Hammer Brothers suit when you can actually be a Hammer Brothers? This little squid can hover in the air with a hose-like action until he runs out of water. Tank Mario takes on a futuristic caterpillar. But Cappy's most enduring feature is the ability to take over control of certain enemies, onlookers, and even previously inanimate objects, which sport Mario's trademark cap and moustache to indicate they've been temporarily possessed. The effect is limited to only a few dozen specific objects in the game, and that list is padded with some Mario conversions that seem like utter wastes of the concept. Taking control of a manhole cover, a pine tree, just so you can move these obstacles out of the way feels a bit tacked on, for instance. Overwhelmingly, though, there's a certain childish glee in becoming a Chain Chomp or a Cheep Cheep or a Hammer Brothers, gaining full control of their traditionally antagonistic powers. There are some inventive new creatures to control, too, like a tiny squid that uses a flood-style water gun to hover in the air, or a tank that allows for brief third-person shooter interludes, or a ridiculous-looking yellow and orange lizard that can glide like a flying squirrel. I won't give away some of the surprising mind control opportunities near the end of the game, but suffice to say Mario gets the chance to inhabit some unexpected fan favorites. The presence of a mind control target can be a pretty obvious sign that there is a simple task right nearby that needs the character's specific abilities. Quite often, though, you have to get creative and explore the limits of each target's power. How am I supposed to get Fireball Mario over to that island is as common a question in this game as how am I supposed to get Trex Mario up to the top of that mountain. More than that, Cappy's temporary possessions provide an excuse to play with the familiar physics of Mario's jumping and movement in some interesting ways. After decades developing the muscle memory of Mario's running and jumping arc, learning the control intricacies of a high-jumping frog or a stretchy caterpillar or a rocketing bullet bill has all the scary thrill of learning to ride a bike all over again. Actual footage of infectious joy as Ars Technica's editors try Super Mario Odyssey for the first time back at E3. Miles to go as I write this. I've collected just over 500 power moons from more than 15 different kingdoms in Super Mario Odyssey over more than 20 hours of play. There are at least 300 more that I know of still waiting to be collected based on the in-game checklists. The scale of what remains is still a little shocking to me, considering how thoroughly I thought I had explored some of these kingdoms. Collecting every last moon, every last purple coin, and every last in-game purchase costume in Super Mario Odyssey is a pretty meaty undertaking, and one that's sure to get slower once the lowest hanging fruit has been gobbled up. But it's one I'm still eager to undertake at this point. I'm more than happy to revel in the freedom of running and jumping and experimenting with what is undoubtedly Mario's deepest adventure yet. Back in the Nintendo 64 days, I remember diving deep into Beyond 120 Stars, a fan-curated list of tricks, challenges, and glitches designed for Super Mario 64 players who were still hungry for more things to do after they had already completed all of the game's explicit goals. Decades later, Nintendo seems to have realized that it can just pack Mario's world as tightly as possible with these kinds of diversions, providing ample excuse to just wander those well-crafted Odyssey worlds for as long as possible. The good, excellent, inventive level design packed dense with secrets encourages exploring dozens of clever challenges in every kingdom, bright, colorful art direction in worlds that feel animated, and a sharp, precise controls that expand Mario's traditional moveset, the childlike glee of taking control of enemies and learning new, silly ways of moving the bad, ignorable, retrograde plot. Occasional issues with graphical pop-in and stuttering frame rates. Inconsistent and awkward if optional motion controls. A few of the goals and mind control targets feel tacked on. The ugly considering the ethical implications of Mario's mind control powers. What happened to that Goomba Soul verdict? If you have a Switch, get this game. If you don't have a Switch, get one, then get this game.